Candace Owens and Michael Knowles are in fact not Christian. Can you imagine? Let's talk about that, man. Only on Food for Thought. Let's roll. What up, everybody? I know the intro was kind of crazy. We are so divided into you're a liberal and you're a conservative and you're gay and you're straight and you trans and you vegan and you this and you that. This video is for people like Candace Owens and Michael Knowles. They claim they are better than everyone else. They claim that they are Christian, yet Christ said, don't judge and you will not be judged. And what do? They judge people all day long. This is how they make their money. While they claim to be conservative Christians, guess what? They are very much part of the establishment. Their kids go to a regular or even a private school, which doesn't really matter. They go to the same supermarkets. They drive fancy cars. They make these huge YouTube channels. They're part of the system. And guess what? Christ was against the system. The first sign in the scriptures that we see of that is when Christ came to Jerusalem and came into Solomon's temple. He seen people selling stuff at the temple's doors, and first time in the scriptures we see Christ lose his patience and he's throwing these tables over and he's screaming at people, how could you? Scholars will argue, well, he just didn't want these people to be selling goods on the doorstep of the temple. He was against us turning religion into a movement of control and us being a part of that system. Do you really think that Christ got crucified because he was running around calling himself the Son of God and the Son of David? No, because he was actually a threat to the Roman rule. He was a threat to the establishment at the time, to the system, because he could gather 5,000 people to hear him speak, which at that time is like having 5 million subscribers on YouTube, a huge movement. And they were scared that he will start affecting people, that people will turn away from just being taxpayers and slaves to the system. If you want to see what a real Christian is, there's a man called German Sterligov in Russia. He has a phenomenal story. At the age of 24, right after the fall of the Soviet Union, this guy, German Sterligov, becomes one of the first Russian billionaires. He establishes like the first equivalent to the Russian stock markets called Alyona. He was the first Russian to have offices in London and in Moscow. And he was running for different political seats. In the year 2000, he was running for the presidency. He spent a huge amount of money to run for the presidency. He obviously didn't win. He lived with his wife and his 3 children on Rublyovka, which it's like living on Park Avenue times 5. It's one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the world. These houses go for 10, 20, 30, 40 million dollars. He has a huge house on Rublyovka at the time. This was the end of 90s, the beginning of 2000s. He just lost running for the presidency. Something comes over him, a sort of a revelation. He's seeing his wife and kids watching TV. He snatches the TV and throws it out the window. This is a true story. He tells his wife and his children, look, I'm done with being part of the system. I want something different. He didn't even know what he wanted, but something was calling him inside. What did they do? From one of the most expensive neighborhoods in the world, they moved to a village because he wanted to learn the craft. He wanted to learn how to take care of himself. He wanted to learn how to live off the land. He wanted to be a true, real Christian. For 6 months, him and his children, they live out of a tent. And his wife at the time believes so much in this man. After 6 months, he learns what he needs to learn. He finally realizes that the villagers there are fallen also because they have alcoholism and all of this going on. So what does he do? He decides to get a plot of land to be separated from villages and from cities. He gets this plot of land. He puts up a fence around it. He calls it Sloboda, and he starts building his own, what he calls a real Christian inner world. And in Russia, there's always been a movement called the Starovery. When Moscow started answering to Constantinople, there was a lot of people that didn't agree with this, and they called themselves the Old Believers. They ran from the regime. They moved to places like Siberia and Brazil in order to preserve what was to them real Christianity. German Sterligov says, guess what? I am not sending my kids to any of these schools. They will not pick up this false Bible that we have going around. I will find for them real ancient biblical scriptures, in which he did. He built this quote unquote community for himself, a real Christian community that lives off the land, only uses natural resources. His wife, super oligarch, expensive and mink coats, puts on a lawn dress, covers her head, follows her husband, becomes a real Christian woman, completely separated from the Moscow patriarchy, from the Moscow church, because that one is also, it's fallen, it's controlled. And that is, in our days, what we call a real Christian. So to you, Candace Owens, to you, Michael Knowles, if you want to see a real Christian, look at German, because you are not a real Christian. I am sorry to break this to you, but you are not. You are very much part of the system. This is all I got to say for this one. Let me know what y'all think. Shout out to Romaniya poet, Jim Dillinger, my brother Tomek, all of you. Love you all. Thank you. Uno.